Hello and welcome to Sex in the News. Tonight we're going to be bringing you three stories. Our first one is about a CDC, U.S. government campaign called Hear Her, which is a program to actually save the lives of pregnant and child-giving women. We will then talk a little bit about something that was found in Vietnam. Police bust a scheme to wash and sell 300,000 used condoms.
Oh, boy.
And we will finish off with talking about how cancer therapy affects the sexual health of most patients, yet very few doctors ever talk to them about it. So our first story.
Yes, this is an important move. Remember, a couple of weeks ago we had the brilliant Amy Gilliland talking about obstetrical violence and how they point out here as many as 50,000 women experience severe unexpected health problems related to pregnancy and delivery that obviously may have long-term health consequences. And as Dr. Gilliland was saying, it's more often than not about the obstetrician's preference, not the woman giving birth.
Right.
So this CDC campaign called Hear Her is basically just saying to listen. If a woman says something doesn't feel right, listen to her.
Yeah.
If a woman is in pain, don't ignore her. And hopefully that message with Amy and other folks joining that call, maybe we will modernize modern obstetrics and make it for really what's in the best interest of the woman delivering rather than expedience for the medical professionals.
Absolutely. And more than 700 women die every year from pregnancy complications. So screw you, Ted Cruz.
Yeah, really.
And we're
I was
gonna
going to say, how
put,
many die from abortion?
Yeah.
Not
Right.
that.
So we'll put the link for that CDC website up at the end of this, so you'll have
Yes,
it. But that's
we
a really important department to be aware of.
We want everybody to spread word
Indeed.
about this.
Indeed. Our next story
It's disgusting.
It's just one of those things that again, life can be stranger than fiction. Everybody knows condoms are used once and disposed of. But there was something, and this just came up a couple of weeks ago. Police in Vietnam busted a factory owner who was looking for legal protection when he was arrested for trying to resell more than 300,000 used condoms. This guy, the factory owner, claimed that she bought the condoms off a guy.
Some guy.
Some guy. Right? Now, first of all, I would like to know who's walking around with almost 500,000 used condoms. Right? And I don't want to know where they came from. But what apparently the factory workers were doing was taking these used condoms, boiling them, drying them out, and then reshaping them with a wooden penis, and then trying to repackage them. Now, to me, the kicker on all of this is that it is unclear. The police aren't quite sure how long this operation has been in effect and how many used condoms have been sold this way. So all I can say is just don't buy condoms from Vietnam.
Okay.
All right, we'll just have to leave it at
Let's
that.
just hope this is not going on anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, exactly. That we don't want to look at that can of worms, so to speak.
And our final story is an important one that we've been talking about for a long time, but I'm glad it's making the news and people in the media are finally talking about it. That it has to be considered expected that if someone goes through cancer treatment, whether it's surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, or all of the above, there are more likely than not going to be sexual side effects.
Right.
And particularly couples need to understand, as we talked about in this week's Sex Talk show, there's just too many guys who feel so entitled to sex that they don't really care if their wives or girlfriends are experiencing pain. And people need to guys in particular need to be more understanding and patient and sensitive, and let, just like with pregnancy, if a woman goes through any kind of medical procedure at all, she should be allowed to set the pace for how fast and when and what kind of sexual activity will be happening after.
Right.
Whether it's things like breast cancer, which has a profound impact on a woman's body image and a sense of herself,
Right.
just seeing herself naked in the mirror, or something like colorectal cancer, where people aren't up on their anatomy enough to realize that the vagina and the rectum share a wall, and anything that's going on this side of the wall is going to have an effect on that side of the wall.
Right.
So intercourse is likely to be affected even with colon cancer.
Now, I have to throw this in as well, because again, we have to point out the biases. And, medicine has a great bias against women in just about every level.
Yeah.
Right? We know, and we've talked about this for years too, that if a guy went into his primary care physician and basically said, at times I experience a little tightness in my chest, some shortness of breath, not really sure. Sometimes I actually feel my heart pounding in my chest. He, without taking another breath, is going to be given a referral to a cardiologist and given a complete cardiac workup.
Right.
But if a woman comes in to her primary care specialist and says the same thing, she's more
She'll
likely to
get
be
a little
told,
Xanax?
yeah, oh, well, you're having some stress, dear. Maybe you should relax
Yeah.
a little bit. Here's a Xanax or a Valium or, some other benzodiazepine, and just told to relax a little while. And then, meanwhile, women die of heart disease, especially heart
More.
attacks, at a higher rate than men. So talk about a bias. And this cancer treatment and looking at the sexual effect is no different. We have a tremendous bias in this. Guys going through cancer treatment are often preemptively warned about sexual side effects of the procedures or the medication. When it comes to erectile impact, guys are basically given the heads up, but how many women are taught about the impact on body image, sexual pain, orgasm difficulty?
Yeah, these numbers
none of them.
these numbers are disturbing. According to this article taken from Medscape, 87% of cancer survivors had such problems. Right? And we look at things like more than half, 54% reporting body image distortion, almost 3/4, 73.5% sexual pain, and more than 40% unable to achieve orgasm.
Right.
That's not a little thing.
No, it really isn't. And again, when we look at just that split, guys are much more likely to be given information about the impact on their erections, yet women who basically are a little bit more whole body in their sexual response are given virtually nothing.
Right.
So we've got to really do something about that bias.
There was a wonderful quote from, remember that Dutch physician named Wout
Wout.
Gianatten, who said that cancer patients are afraid to ask about sex, oncologists are afraid to talk about sex, and sex therapists are afraid to talk about cancer. Happily, that last part is no longer true.
Right.
There are some wonderful sex therapists that are working in this arena. So anybody who's going through this kind of medical treatment, anyone going through cancer of any kind, don't hesitate to reach out for help and find a sex therapist in your area.
Absolutely.
So finally, we like to end our Sex in the News segments with a piece we call Poetic Justice, our opportunity to call out hypocrisy, which there seems to be no shortage of these days.
No, absolutely. And
So,
some of it's concentrated in one genetic line.
Who was our lucky recipient for this week's Poetic Justice?
Yes, our honoree for this week's hypocrisy is none other than Ivanka Trump.
The president's best girl.
That's right. The president's girlfriend. No, his daughter. Girlfriend? Daughter? That's confusing.
It depends on what day you ask him.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Ivanka declares that she is unapologetically pro-life for the first time ever.
Right.
Interesting that now she's decided to make her views
Right.
clear.
Now, the reason that we've chosen her for this honor is because she has made a career out of supposedly working for and advocating for women's empowerment and women's opportunities.
I can't think of anything more disempowering
Yeah.
to women than denying them authority over their fertility.
Absolutely. And even the organizations that she has been trying to work with, like particularly the Women's Global Development and the Prosperity Initiative, they all pretty much agree that one of the most important factors in allowing women to thrive is the ability to control how many children they have and when they have them. You know, you cannot in any way, shape, or form claim to be for female empowerment and at the same time trying to regulate or control their fertility, not letting women have agency over their own body. I cannot think of anything more disempowering.
I remember that quote from Margaret Sanger, who said that no woman can call herself truly free until she can determine when and whether she will have a child. In other words, it's a form of forced slavery to deny women access to sexual and reproductive health. And that's part of the Republican platform.
It really is, right? And it's also part of this detached, spoiled, entitled, I don't know what word I want to end that with, but it's not going to be good.
Oh, yeah. This is a little interesting piece in here. They said, while never explicitly stated, Ivanka's revelation follows previous reports that she and her husband, Jared Kushner, reached out to Planned Parenthood with a bribe to halt abortion services.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Yeah, and people should know that of the Planned Parenthoods that do provide abortion, it never amounts to more than 3% of their total services. So for people who think that Planned Parenthood is strictly about abortion, they have a lot to learn about sexual and reproductive health.
And Planned Parenthood.
And prevention.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So for that flagrant hypocrisy, we salute you, Ivanka Trump, as this week's hypocrite and winner of Poetic Justice.
That'll do it for this week's Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers. See you next Sunday.